Reading Matthew Harker. This is for Matthew Harker. You are and will always be this bright, burning light. I've always known your impact on my life, but it's been so beautiful to see all the hearts that you have touched, all of the lives that you changed for the better. We are all hurting, but that doesn't stop us from smiling because we all had the chance to have you in our lives. You lived your life with a fearlessness like no other. You lived bold, strong, but also with so much compassion and care. These are the lessons we will all take and move forward with. I will make sure to protect and continue the family that you gave us. We will take care of each other in the way you were there for all of us. I love you so very much. We all miss you greatly. Will, Mikey, and Dave. Reading number 2, Marjorie Orzonico Clement. Marjorie Orzonico Clement. Jerry was born in Portland on October 25th, 1929, the daughter of Guido Joseph and Elsie Cellier Orzonico of Yarmouth. She graduated in the Wellfleet class of 1947, among friends who have remained close throughout her life. She received a BA from Smith College in 1951, and a few years later went to earn a master's degree in English and drama, and then a Master of Letters in theater at Middlebury College. Jerry initially held a variety of jobs at the New York Public Library, then on a Norwegian freighter, and as the first supervisor of the new children's playroom at Maine Medical Center. She was formerly married to the late Frederick B. Webster and to the late Bennett B. Schneider IV. Jerry was always a voracious reader, and she eventually followed her passion for literature into her first job teaching English at Yarmouth High School and then at High Mowing School in New Hampshire. The bulk of her teaching career, however, was the many rewarding years she spent teaching English and theater at Thayer Academy in Braintree, Massachusetts, with time also spent directing theater courses and plays at Phillips Andover Academy in Massachusetts. She finished teaching with 1 year at her alma mater, Waynflete, and after marriage to her beloved husband. Jerry's teaching years next became her enjoyable paralegal years, searching real estate titles for the Verrill Dana law firm and Atlantic Title Company. She also became a member of Portland Stage Company's Board of Trustees. Prompted by a lifelong dislike of prejudice and bigotry, she joined the Maine Speak Out project and worked tirelessly for gay rights. She eventually became a board member and traveled Maine and elsewhere delivering talks based on personal experiences. A highlight of this time came the day she marched with Maine Speak Out the length of New York City's Fifth Avenue on the city's Gay Pride Day, flanked on one side by her son Ben, and on the other by her daughter Sally and baby grandson Theo. While constantly delighted by the humorous aspects of life, the inequities were never far from Jerry's mind. Reading number 3, Monica Roberts. Monica Roberts. Roberts founded Trans Griot in 2006, breaking new ground for the trans community. The griot in the blog's name was a West African term meaning storyteller. Trans Griot became a beacon to the trans community, and particularly to Black trans women. Roberts, who began her own transition in the mid-1990s, was the first to provide nationwide coverage of homicides against trans women of color. She combed news reports to find murder victims who may have been misgendered. For example, a police report describing a, quote, man in women's clothing, unquote. And when she connected the dots to find a murder of a trans woman, Roberts would provide respectful coverage on transgrio, including the victim's preferred name and pronouns. Years later, national media began doing this reporting and covering the high homicide rate against trans people. Roberts was a co-founder of the National Transgender Advocacy Coalition, dedicated toward protecting and extending the rights of transgender people. In an interview she gave to the Daily Beast, Roberts said, "Our rights movement is like a relay race. The torch got handed to me at a certain point, and when it's time for me to pass it on, I'm just going to turn around and hand that torch back to the next generation for y'all to advance, and then hand it to the trans kids behind you. Our goal is to never let the flame go out." Recording number 4, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died this year aged 87, was the second woman to sit on the Supreme Court of the United States. Nominated to the court by Bill Clinton in 1993, she had already established a reputation as a champion of gender equality and women's rights, as advocate, academic, and appeals court judge. Throughout her long career, she was firm in her twin convictions. There is discrimination against women in the U.S. and elsewhere, and that discrimination violates the American Constitution. In her 27 years on the Supreme Court bench, she was a consistent moderate liberal. Her role as the senior liberal justice after 2010 became increasingly important as the balance of opinion shifted in the court, and her scathing dissents on conservative majority decisions, particularly on women's rights, made her a celebrated figure on the left. Recording number 5, Franny. Franny. Remembered as the oldest living drag queen in Boston, Franny was a drag grandmother to many in the Boston scene. She was a friend of the Boston Sisters and marched with us occasionally during Boston's Pride Parade. We will very much miss her spirit.
pero sabroso. Yo soy como el chile verde, llorona picante, pero sabroso. Ay, de mi llorona, 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 llévame al río. Ay, de mi llorona, 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 llévame al río. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, que me muero de frío. Tápame con que me muero de frío. No sé qué tienen las flores lloronas, las flores del campo santo. No sé qué tienen las flores lloronas, las flores del campo santo, que cuando las mueve el viento llorona parecen que están llorando, que cuando las mueve el viento llorona parecen que están llorando. Ay de mí, llorona, llorona, llorona de un campo lirio. Ay de mi llorona, llorona, llorona de un campo lirio. El que no sabe de amores, llorona, no sabe lo que es martirio. El que no sabe de amores, llorona, no sabe lo que es martirio. Yo te soñaba dormida, llorona, dormida, te estabas quieta. Yo te soñaba dormida, llorona, dormida, te estabas quieta. Pero en llegando la vida, llorona, soñé que estabas despierta. Pero en llegando la vida, llorona, soñé que estabas despierta. Sí, porque te quiero, quieres, llorona, llorona. ¿Quieres que te quiera más? Sí, porque te quiero, quieres, llorona, quieres que te quiera más. Si ya te he dado la vida, llorona, ¿qué más quieres? ¿Quieres más? Si ya te he dado la vida, llorona, ¿qué más quieres? ¿Quieres más?
Recording number 6, Yolandi Fissure. Yolandi Fissure. Yo-Yo Dexter passed away peacefully at home on December 29th, 2019, with their best friend Courtney and loved ones by their side. From day one of this battle, Yo-Yo and their Dark Lady family shared their deep appreciation of the support, encouragement, and comfort offered by friends and the Providence queer community. The stories shared and overwhelming gestures will always be cherished in their hearts. After years of battling cancer, they ran out of options to fight the relentless disease, but decided rather than be sad, to get louder. We all know how special it was to witness on a daily basis the incredible advocacy work for often misrepresented groups that Yo-Yo did, from Pride, World AIDS Day, and their reign as Miss Gay Rhode Island 2018, to just name a few. They poured everything into helping this community through service and drag. Now it's our duty to carry the torch and continue to fight for what is just. For ignorance equals fear, silence equals death. Fight AIDS, act up. Yo-Yo loved animals, especially their dogs Daisy and Charles, who are often the center of attention in the home they shared with Courtney. Celebrate Yo-Yo Dexter's life and love for animals by making a memorial gift donation to the Providence Animal Rescue League in their name. Recording number 7, John Michael Gray. John Michael Gray. John Michael Gray, 66, of Provincetown, died Saturday, September 24th, 2016, at Seashore Point Wellness and Rehabilitation Center in Provincetown after a short illness. He was the 32-year life partner of Timothy J. O'Connor. Together since 1984, they were married in 2004 when same-gender marriage became legal in Massachusetts. Born in Nashua, New Hampshire, he was the son of the late Vernon and Phyllis Gray. After graduating from Lawrence Academy in Groton, he received his Bachelor's of Fine Arts from Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, a Master's in Education from Tufts University, and his doctorate in Curriculum and Supervision from Boston University. John Michael started his career as a fine arts consultant for the New Hampshire Department of Education, working with school districts statewide on arts education programming. He then became fine arts coordinator for the Newton Public School System, retiring in 2008. During this time, he also managed a visual arts and writing awards program for Massachusetts students, affiliated with a national program conducted by the Alliance for Young Artists and Writers, on which he also served as a member of the board of directors. He also was program co-director of the Boston Globe's Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. Over the years, he received many awards and honors, among them the 2009 Kennedy Center Excellence in School Administration Award, the National Art Education Association's 2000 Educator of the Year, and the New Hampshire State Art Educator Award in 1983, to name but a few. He also worked with many professional boards and organizations. In 2011, John Michael, after almost 40 years in the field of art education, was honored as Massachusetts Art Educator of the Year. One of his greatest achievements, however, he shared with his partner Tim. The duo was known as the Hat Sisters. The idea started in 1984 as John Michael was preparing for the second Provincetown Carnival celebration. He made costumes for himself and Tim, which included identical dresses and huge hats. The popularity of that effort mushroomed into a significant number of charitable events over the last 32 years, raising significant amounts of money for a variety of causes and cementing friendships all over the world. The story has been told of a vacation trip on which they were touring the Louvre in Paris. A Parisian walked up to them and asked if they were the Hat Sisters from Provincetown in the United States. Their notoriety and charity has warmed the hearts of untold numbers of people. Recording number 8, Liz Hasty. Liz Hasty. Liz was a creative, compassionate social worker, craftsperson, mom, and grandmother. She died on April 27, 2020, due to complications of COVID-19 in the memory care unit at the German Center in West Roxbury. She was 89 years old and enjoyed a long life full of friends, family, and community. Born in England, Liz embarked on a 3-week voyage on an oil tanker from England to the United States in 1952 to follow her dream of higher education to become a social worker. For over 20 years, she directed a small social work agency helping elders and their families in Cambridge and Somerville. While riding around town doing rounds on her moped into her 70s, young people would yell out to her, "Go, go, Grandma!" She participated in Jamaica Plain's annual Open Studios for 10 years, into her early 80s, sharing and selling her unique crafts, including whimsical dolls, Fimo beadwork, hand-knitted scarves, and wirework brooches. She was a loving soul who taught us to love everyone by her own example. This memory is dedicated by her son, George Henry Hasty. Recording number 9, Amanda Riddick. Amanda Riddick. Amanda passed away very suddenly from a brain tumor this April. This year would have been her 50th birthday. Recording number 10, Mike Fogelman. Mike Fogelman. Mike was born on March 31st, 1947, in Lafayette, Indiana. He grew up as an only child who was actively participating in the Boy Scouts. At the age of 14, he received a God and Country Award. By the age of 15, he became an honorary Eagle Scout. At 19, Mike joined the United States Air Force, where he studied nuclear proliferation and served his country proudly. After the Air Force, he worked at our local cable industry and started as a cable technician. He was promoted to head end engineer number 2 at our local cable company, Comcast, for 43 years. Mike was a driven man who was non-judgmental and had an unmatched work ethic. He was an avid gamer in his free time. He loved to travel across the states to visit historical monuments. Mike was the loving father of 6 children and his 6 grandchildren.
Making a Fist by Naomi Shihab. For the first time on the road north of Tampico, I felt the life sliding out of me. A drum in the desert, harder and harder to hear. I was 7. I lay in the car, watching palm trees swirling a sickening pattern past the glass. My stomach was a melon split wide inside my skin. "How do you know if you're going to die?" I begged my mother. We had been traveling for days. With strange confidence, she answered, "When you can no longer make a fist." Years later, I smile to think of that journey, the borders we must cross separately, stamped with our unanswerable woes. I who did not die, who am still living, still lying in the back seat behind all my questions, clenching and opening one small hand.
Recording number 11, Josetta Nichols. Josetta Nichols. Josetta passed away a few weeks ago. She achieved her lifelong dream of having a baby in July. It is beyond heartbreaking. She was a friend to all, an incredibly sweet person.
Number 12, Yampi Mendez Arocho. Yampi Mendez Arocho, a 19-year-old transgender man, was killed on March 5th in Moca, Puerto Rico, due to 2 gunshot wounds in the face and 2 in the back. According to reports, Yampi's mother contacted the police because he was assaulted by a woman just 5 hours prior. Pedro Julio Serrano, founder of the LGBTQ plus advocacy group Puerto Rico Para Todas, said he was disappointed with authorities for how they handled Yampi and Alexis's death. He told Puerto Rico media outlet Primera Hora, if the treatment of Yampi's murder is added to the mismanagement of Alexis' murder, we are talking about a crisis of confidence of the LGBTQ plus communities towards the police, because they're failing to comply with their own protocols of handling cases with dignity and sensitivity with the trans community. Number 13, Nirvana Nears Kahlo. Nirvana passed away unexpectedly on January 28, 2020. She was only 34 years old. Nirvana was an advocate, sister, friend, and ally of the LGBTQIA+ community and was determined to create social change for the well-being of our Boston Latinx community. She had her own radio segment on BNS Radio in Boston called Sin Miedo a Vivir, providing ways to destigmatize certain topics that are still treated as taboo. Nirvana was a validator of the Revolution with Don P. campaign and was destined to continue fighting the battle against HIV to better serve Latino youth in Boston affected by the pandemic. Number 14, Leila Pelaez Sanchez and Serena Angelique Velázquez Ramos. The bodies of Leila Pelaez Sanchez, 21, and Serena Angelique Velázquez Ramos, 32, were discovered in a burnt-out car in the coastal town of Humacao in Puerto Rico on April 22nd. Speaking to NBC, Pedro Julio Serrano, a spokesperson for the Broad Committee for the Search of Equity, said, "They are hunting us." Ivana Fred from the same group added, "We trans people deserve to live in peace, equality, and freedom. Enough of so much hate." Francesca Alvarado, the sister of Serena, found out about her death from a phone call. "I was in complete shock and disbelief because my sister was a great person," she said. "She was never in the streets. She was just herself." She called on the police to investigate an alleged Snapchat video which showed her sister, the other victim, and 2 men laying in a bed hours before the women were found murdered.
Let us remember together some of the healthcare workers who died during the pandemic. Lucia Dantes Abrantes, 66, a physician in Fortaleza, Brazil. Davinia Akkad, 72, a registered nurse at the John Dingle Medical Center in Detroit. Ajit Agarwal, 68, a cardiologist in the United Kingdom. Luis Alves de Brito, 48, a licensed practical nurse in Rio Grande do Norte, Brazil. Carlo Amodio, a radiologist in Italy. Larisse Anderson, 46, a nurse at New Orleans East Hospital. Malik Ashtar, 50, a nurse in Gilgit, Pakistan. Israel Bakhtol, 34, a cardiologist at the Philippine Heart Center in Metro Manila. Jean-Marie Bogle, 66, an OBGYN in Mulhouse, France. And Lourdes Campbell, a healthcare assistant at the Bolton NIH Foundation Trust in Bolton, England. For these and all the healthcare workers lost to COVID-19, rest in power.
Number 16, Philip Tsai Brooks and Anthony Brooks. In their public lives, Live Oak Councilman Anthony Brooks and businessman Philip Tsai Brooks were a well-known couple, dedicated community leaders, proud to contribute to the suburb they called home. In private, theirs was a late-blooming romance that was supposed to have a happily ever after ending, growing old together. It was not to be. The couple, married barely 5 years, died within days of each other in the same hospital, victims of the deadly novel coronavirus. Family members see it as a cautionary tale. We urge everyone to stay home, stop the spread. You don't want to go through what we are going through. Rest in peace, Tony and Philip. Still in disbelief, reads a Facebook post by Anthony Tsai, one of Tsai Brooks' 4 brothers. He lives in San Antonio. Number 17, James and Veronica. James and Veronica at Baker Beach, San Francisco. My beloved Miss V, who was taken from us just shy of her 41st birthday, October 20th, 1986, and James, my catering business partner and shenaniganator who lost his fight to AIDS in 1991. Sadly, James was an HIV skeptic, and his persistent denial took him away from us way too soon. My beloved Ms. V, Veronica, the love of my life, a woman who transitioned in her mid-30s and had just returned to her old career as an advertising exec in a madman agency that never in a million years knew that she was once one of them in her inauthentic self. She had only been back for 6 months when she was felled with an inoperable brain tumor. Number 18, Shaheen Shahabalu. Shaheen Shahabalu, who died of coronavirus at age 56, was a photographer and teacher born in Tehran who moved to the UK in 2011. He was 15 years old in 1979 when the Islamic Revolution profoundly changed Iranian society, and his life was inevitably caught up in the dramatic events of his country. Like many politically engaged young people, Shaheen spent a few years in prison, the standard finishing school for middle-class Iranians. By the time he enrolled at Tehran University of Art, he was passionate about photography, and for the last 2 years of his undergraduate coursework, he worked for the Iranian Cultural Heritage Organization, now the ICHTO, photographing heritage sites while managing the organization's darkroom. Growing social repression after Mahmoud Ahmadinejad took power in 2005 led to Shaheen leaving Iran and relocating to London in 2010, where he hoped for a freer, less restricting life. He cut a quiet, modest figure in the Iranian community, and his photographic work included occasional commissions and voluntary jobs for charities, including Amnesty International. But his photographic profile in Tehran translated to anonymity in London. Undeterred, he explored his new home by taking poetic images of the city and making and exhibiting portraits of marginalized LGBTQ+ subjects. Given more time, his singular eye would no doubt have produced more striking documentary photography. Number 19, Michael Coombs. Michael Coombs in San Francisco. We all lived in the same Tenderloin apartment building in the late 1960s. Michael was extraordinarily talented as a musician and sketch artist. Drugs and depression led to his untimely death in Los Angeles after many years of struggle and even long-term recovery. I'm still very close to his son and daughter, whom he adored. They were his, quote, pray and fuck the gay away children, and he, along with his partner Susan, were refugees of a Pentecostal group of conversion terrorists, long before there was such a thing as we know and recognize today.
Bill, my beloved Faye husband, Bill. Bill and his husband Stephen and I were together and part of the early foundation of the Black Leather Wings Fairy Circle started in the 80s. Bill and I were very close, and it was devastating to learn that he chose to end his life by a fight off the Golden Gate Bridge. Bill was an exceptional writer with numerous publications in the fringe zine movement and collaborative work in unorthodox writings, as well as the founder of the Black Pages, a directory for BDSM and kink individuals and businesses.
te olvide el pensamiento, pues siempre estoy pensando en el ayer. Prefiero estar dormido que despierto, de tanto que me duele que no estés. Como quisiera que tú vivieras, que tus ojitos jamás se hubieran cerrado nunca y estar mirándonos, amor eterno e inolvidable. Tarde o temprano estaré contigo para seguir he sufrido tanto por tu ausencia, desde ese día hasta hoy. No soy feliz, aunque tengo tranquila mi conciencia. Sé que pude haber yo hecho más por ti. Oscura soledad estoy viviendo, la misma soledad de tu sepulcro. Tú eres el amor que cual yo tengo, el más triste recuerdo de Acapulco. Pero como quisiera que tú vivieras, que tus ojitos jamás se hubieran cerrado nunca y estar mirándonos, amor eterno e inolvidable. Tarde o temprano no estaré contigo para seguir amándonos. Amor eterno, 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 amor eterno, amor eterno, 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 amor eterno.
Number 21, Nulisa Luciano Ruiz. A transgender woman, Nulisa Luciana Ruiz, better known as Alexa, was shot and killed early Monday morning in Toa Baja, Puerto Rico, officials confirmed on Tuesday. She was killed hours after someone called police to report that Ruiz was using the women's bathroom at a McDonald's restaurant. We must denounce the hate speech of the fundamentalist groups that have promoted a climate where they persecute and prosecute a trans person for the mere fact of using a bathroom, Serrano wrote. Number 22, Michelle Ramos Vargas. Michelle Ramos Vargas, a 33-year-old transgender woman, was murdered on September 30th. The body of Vargas was found with several gunshot wounds in San German, Puerto Rico. She was in the middle of studying to become a nurse at Ponce Paramedical College. Her name is Michelle Ramos Vargas, and she was my age. Her passion, like mine, was helping other people. That's why she decided to study nursing, said Joanna Cifredo, a trans rights activist. She added, "Here is another sad example that gender perspective is urgently needed to educate our youth to recognize, respect, and celebrate the differences between us."
Sister Be Big. Bee was a champion of hard work, dedication, social activism, and change. Before joining the Sisters, she had participated in peasant riots in Peru, stood up to government soldiers in Ukraine, and even sued the city of Boston for corruption, and won. She also filled her life with volunteer and community outreach, like teaching baseball to kids in South End and volunteering with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Massachusetts Bay. This was not a character who lived her life small in any facet. After joining the Sisters, she kept that energy alive and was an advocate for our voices to be loud and proud in the face of Straight Pride Parade in Boston. This is the time to let people know we are there to stand up to bigotry and intolerance. Along with pushing the Sisters to take stands and make statements, Bee was a tireless worker, a worker bee, if you will. Last year, she worked for weeks in order to design, organize, and build with her own two hands our Pride float. Bee was also a strong, outward-facing voice for our community. She always reminded people that if they couldn't be big, they could also change the world through small acts, because small acts add up to big ones. At our Sisters Tell All event, Bee reminded the audience of that. I like to inspire people to do what they can do, even in the tiniest way. I think what it is about the Sisters is to inspire people to just do what you can do. Don't do nothing. Even if that's just buying a charity pin for $5, or giving someone a hug, or just being nice to somebody. Bee's memory, energy, spirit, and dedication will ring forever throughout the Boston Sisters. We are a different house than we were when she joined because she changed each and every one of us. May the nuns above welcome her with open arms as she passes through the veil onto her next adventure. We miss you, Bee. Maria de la Luz Rodriguez Lozano. Abuelita Lucy. Maria de la Luz Rodriguez Lozano, 1933 to 2017. She was born and died in Monterrey, Mexico. Hector Joel Gonzalez Rodriguez. Dad. Hector Joel Gonzalez Rodriguez, 1960 to 2020. He was born and died in Monterrey, Mexico.
For all those lost to COVID, a meditation on the Stations of the Cross. The first station, Donald Trump washes his hands of responsibility for the coronavirus, and Jesus is condemned to death. The second station, Jesus contracts the virus. The third station, Jesus develops a fever. The fourth station, Jesus meets his mother through a plate glass window. The fifth station, Simon of Cyrene, the EMT, helps Jesus to the hospital, but he has no PPE, and Simon contracts the virus. The sixth station, Veronica, the ER nurse, wipes the brow of Jesus. She too has been reusing PPE and contracts the virus. The seventh station, Jesus develops a deep cough and headache. The eighth station, Jesus meets the women of the ER nursing team. They have to reuse PPE. 2 of 5 contract the virus. The ninth station, Jesus develops chills and his cough worsens. The 10th station, Jesus is moved to the ICU. The 11th station, Jesus is intubated. The 12th station, Jesus crashes and dies. The 13th station, Jesus is removed from the ventilator, which is sterilized and used for the next COVID-19 victim. The 14th station, Jesus' body is laid in the refrigerator truck. For all those lost to COVID, we walk the stations together and we resist.
Larry Cohn. The 59-year-old actor was known largely for his comedic performances. Cohn served as the artistic director at City Stage, the theater education nonprofit. Cohn was an actor, director, and playwright. He was known as a Boston theater mainstay, directing and appearing in dozens of plays for Speakeasy Stage Company, the Huntington Theater Company, Beauchest Moving Theater, Commonwealth Shakespeare Company, and the Lyric Stage Company of Boston, among others. He also wrote a Broadway play, Epic Proportions, with David Crane, one of the co-creators of the Friends sitcom. Mum. My mother was a fighter all of her life. She fought misogyny, domestic violence, and abuse throughout her life, fighting her last battle with cancer in 2019. Despite losing her body to the disease, she came out a triumphantly loved artist with a caring community missing her. I ask that she find peace in my offering, offered by Sister Jareth from the Grand Canyon Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Alex. My mentor and work mom. Alex was a kind, caring soul who would always help others. She made me into the young professional I am, and I cannot thank her enough for this important life lesson. I ask that she feel her children's love in my offering, offered by Sister Jareth from the Grand Canyon Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Mistress Athena, aka Paris. Paris passed in the early 2000s of complications from hepatitis. She was a larger-than-life trans woman who channeled Marilyn Monroe in her mannerisms and attire. She was an event producer preceding her death, and in the mid-80s ran a very successful and lucrative BDSM salon in San Francisco out in the Sunset District on a very well-traveled streetcar line. I worked for Paris for 2 years along with several other close friends. What a glorious experience it was. Later on, I catered her wedding in Sausalito, California. Helen Watson Felt.
For all of those we know who are crossing over, who are making the journey. The Blessing by Mary Davis. Bless you on your way. Bless the life you lived each day, each hour, each minute. Bless all of the people you have ever loved. Bless all of the people who have ever loved you. Bless the work you did here, what you made with your hands, your heart, and your love. Bless the joy you felt, the moments of laughter and celebration. Bless the moments of regret for things said and unsaid, done and undone. Bless the forgiveness that releases those regrets and replaces them with love. Bless the peace that surrounds you as you fly free. Bless the curtain that rises to let you in. Bless the love that welcomes your soul. Bless the universe that heals all wounds, takes all pain, and shows you the love that you are, and always were, and always will be. Bless the moment when you become that love. Bless you on your way.
atmósfera azul. Cruzando la frontera, ya nos íbamos quedando. Ay, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Ay, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Preso me llevan a mí, preso por ningún delito. Si todos somos iguales, si todos somos iguales, dime cómo te lo explico. Ay, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Ay, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 Soy de tierra donde se ama y donde se ve la luz. Soy del cantón de Osuluama, estado de Veracruz, República Mexicana. Ay, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Ay, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Ya me voy a mala mía, porque está soplando el viento. Es cuando canto el frijol, que cuando canto el frijol, me lleno de sentimiento. Ay, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Ay, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Ay, ay, ay.
Barbara Hoffman. Dr. Barbara Hoffman was a longtime leader in the Massachusetts LGBTQIA+ movement. From her early efforts to form the lesbian alumna of Radcliffe College and the Harvard Gay and Lesbian Caucus, to the many years she worked with the Massachusetts Gay and Lesbian Political Caucus, MGLPC, and the Stonewall Democrats. Before her passing in 2015, Barbara was known for putting in the Worcester Street Garden and opening her South End home for fundraisers and wayward souls, both human and feline. A woman with a big heart, she would end every phone call with love. For her, love is what it was all about. 32. Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old unarmed African-American woman, was fatally shot in her Louisville, Kentucky apartment on March 13th, 2020, when white plainclothes officers forced entry into the apartment as part of an investigation into drug dealing operations. Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, was inside the apartment with her when the officers knocked on the door and then forcefully entered. Officers said that they announced themselves as police before forcing entry, but Walker said he did not hear any announcement. He thought the officers were intruders and fired a warning shot at them. Breonna was hit with 32 bullets. Struck 6 times, she died that night. Justice for Breonna Taylor. 33. Julia Acevedo.
Cecilia and Richard Keneally. The pair married in 1978 and had 2 daughters, Jess and Jen. Cece was a stay-at-home mom while the girls were young, and Richard started his long tenure with Quincy Public Schools as a music teacher at Sterling Middle School. Richard went on to become the band director for both Quincy and North Quincy high schools, teaching thousands of students over 3 decades. Mr. Keneally was undoubtedly my favorite and most influential teacher I had in high school, said Catherine Lee, a 2019 graduate of North Quincy. He taught me not only how to read and play music, but also how to see and appreciate the magic and true beauty in music. A safe haven is a term many use to describe the band room. Richard welcomed anyone and everyone, even students who weren't in the band. The band room was my safe haven, like it was for so many others, said Valentina McLaughlin, a graduate of North Quincy High class of 2006. He always had a casual way of reminding us of who we could be if we tried and worked for it. It almost sounds too cliche, but that's seriously who this man was, always pushing people to be a better person. As the daughters of Mr. K, both Jess and Jen heard many stories from their peer about how their dad changed their lives. One student told Jess they came out to her dad before their own family because they trusted him. Another told her they were about to quit school when her dad walked out of the school building to bring them back inside and encourage them to keep going. Peggy Spencer, the longtime work partner of Richard and a fellow music teacher, said his impact on so many students could not have happened without Cece's love and support. Rich would tell you he would not have been the person he was and the teacher he was without Cece, said Spencer, 68. They were so inseparable, they really, truly loved each other. It is not a surprise to me that they only lasted a few weeks without the other one, said Jen Keneally, 39. Hearing people talk about Mr. K's band room was their favorite place to be, and seeing the ripple effect of his life, and then by extension, Mom being part of that too, that feels really good.
35. Ramon Rodriguez.
Todos me dicen el negro, llorona, negro, pero cariñoso. Todos me dicen el negro, llorona, negro, pero cariñoso. Yo soy como el chile verde, llorona, picante, pero sabroso. Yo soy como el chile verde, llorona, picante, pero sabroso. Ay, de mi llorona, 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 llévame al río. Ay, de mi llorona, 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 llévame al río. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, porque me muero de frío. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, porque me muero de frío. que tienen las flores, llorona, las flores del campo santo, que cuando las mueve el viento, llorona, parecen que están llorando, que cuando las mueve el viento, llorona, parecen que están llorando. Ay de mí, llorona, llorona, llorona de un campo lirio. Ay de mi llorona, llorona, llorona de un campo lirio. El que no sabe de amores, llorona, no sabe lo que es martirio. El que no sabe de amores, llorona, no sabe lo que es martirio. Yo te soñaba dormida, llorona, dormida, te estabas quieta. Yo te soñaba dormida, llorona, dormida, te estabas quieta. Pero en llegando la vida, llorona, soñé que estabas despierta. Pero en llegando la vida, llorona, soñé que estabas despierta. Sí, porque te quiero, quieres, llorona, llorona. ¿Quieres que te quiera más? Sí, porque te quiero, quieres, llorona, quieres que te quiera más. Si ya te he dado la vida, llorona, ¿qué más quieres? ¿Quieres más? Si ya te he dado la vida, llorona, ¿qué más quieres? ¿Quieres más?
36. Kenneth Lewis. In an influential book, he defied the idea that being gay, as he was an illness, and took on psychiatry's history of homophobia. He passed away due to COVID-19. Reading 37. Bob Barnum. Bob was a real estate agent who was called a pioneer among LGBT realtors. He was a supporter of the Muscular Dystrophy Association and Community Action Stops Abuse. Sourced from the Tampa Bay Times. Bob died in St. Petersburg, Florida on March 27, 2020, at the age of 64, due to the novel coronavirus, COVID-19. Reading number 38. Debbie K. Hall. Reading number 39. Bernalda Alonso. Reading number 40. Ana Rodriguez.
Let us remember some of the members of the LGBTQIA community who have died in the pandemic. Lorena Borjas, Queens-based trans activist. Bobby Pinn. Helen Isabel. Kias Kelly, a registered nurse at Mount Sinai in New York City, one of the very first to die. Dr. Frank Gabrin, an ER doctor at New Jersey's East Orange General Hospital. P.J. McClelland, a non-binary activist in Brandon, Florida. Rosemary Anderson. Amanda Riddick. George Skip Pence, Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida. Kevin Densmore. Nashome Wooden, New York's drag superstar. Henrietta Robinson, the mother of Miami Beach. San Antonio City Councilor Tony Brooks Sy and his husband, Philip Sy Brooks. Playwright Terrence McNally. Emma and Katie Davis, identical twins, both nurses in Southampton, England. Tarlik McNallis, Irish LGBT activist and founder of one of the first inclusive St. Patrick's Day parades. Michael J. Smith, a nurse at Sinai Hospital in Baltimore. Shannon Bennett, Broward County Sheriff Deputy. Paul Quigley, Lewisham LGBT Forum, London. Richard Weber Jr., Board Member, LGBT Bar Association of New York. Robbie Brown, GMHC, SAGE, and longtime New York City AIDS activist. Gary Bowie, West Hollywood AIDS activist. And for all of those we have lost, we say, rest in peace, rise in power.
Reading number 41. Emilio Robles Avila.
Maureen Anassi Picard. Liz Anassi. Maureen was employed at both Hunt Memorial Hospital and Salem Hospital, and later returned to both locations as a dedicated volunteer. She also worked at Brooks Market in Danvers Square and was a manager of the KFC in Danvers. Liz was a loving person who was dedicated to her family, but her pastimes were playing cards, Texas Hold'em, and bingo. Larry Kramer. Larry Kramer, the noted writer whose ruckus antagonistic campaign for an all-out response to the AIDS crisis helped shift national health policy in the 1980s and 1990s, died on May 27, 2020 in Manhattan. He was 84. His husband, David Webster, said the cause was pneumonia. Mr. Kramer had weathered illness for much of his adult life. Among other things, he had been infected with HIV, the virus that causes AIDS, contracted liver disease, and underwent a successful liver transplant. An author, essayist, and playwright, notably hailed for his autobiographical 1985 play, The Normal Heart, Mr. Kramer had feet in both the world of letters and the public sphere. In 1981, he was a founder of the Gay Men's Health Crisis, the first service organization for HIV-positive people, though his fellow directors effectively kicked him out a year later for his aggressive approach. He returned the compliment by calling them a sad organization of sissies. He was then a founder of a more militant group, ACT UP, AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, whose street actions demanded a speed up in AIDS drug research and an end to discrimination against gay men and lesbians, severely disrupted the operations of government offices, Wall Street, and the Roman Catholic hierarchy. One of America's most valuable troublemakers, Susan Sontag called him. Even some of the officials Mr. Kramer accused of murder and genocide recognized that his outbursts were part of a strategy to shock the country into dealing with AIDS as a public health emergency.
Suzanne Turley passed away last night. To generations of musicians and music lovers in San Francisco, she was a mentor, an inspiration, and a friend. May she rest in peace and rise in power. We remember Sister Saturnalia, a founder of the Eureka Sisters of the Abbey of the Big Redwood, who passed away 2 years ago. May her life continue to be a light and an inspiration. Rest in power, Sister.
The Veil Between the Worlds is Thin by Carla Helbert. Traditionally, we are told that at this time of the year, the veil that separates the spirit world from that of our physical is at its most thin. The next 3 days are ideal times to meditate on your connection with your beloved dead, as well as to the ancestors you may never have known, but whose lives, deaths, and enduring energies impact who you are today. At this time of year, many celebrate Halloween as well as Dia de los Muertos, also known as Day of the Dead. Both of these holidays, holy days, traditionally and historically honor ancestors and those we love who have died. While the days have their roots in different parts of the globe and in different cultures, they are both ancient and center around the acknowledgement that our loved ones are still with us in spirit, reinforcing the importance of remaining connected to our beloveds who have died, as well as the impermanence of life and the persistence of love and connection. Both of these holidays center around fires and candles, thought to light the way for the spirits of the dead, to connect with your beloved dead, build a fire in a fireplace or a fire pit, or even gaze at a candle's flame. Spend time meditating on your beloved dead, using your inner hearing and inner vision to connect with them. Fire is naturally a meditative tool and helps us to relax and move within. This time of year is conducive to accessing sacred, liminal spaces, the thresholds between physical and spiritual. Many bereaved occupy this space often as we move between the world of the living, of which we are still a part, and the world of the spirit where our loved ones reside. The mesmerizing dance of flames, their changing colors, the warmth and comfort support a meditative process when we wish to purposely move into these sacred spaces where communication with spirit can easily occur. You can build an altar. Choose a space. Collect and display photos or objects of your loved ones. Place natural items like flowers, shells, stones, and crystals, pumpkins, flowers. Add candles, their favorite food, their favorite drink, traditional sugar skulls, and Halloween candies or treats. However you choose to honor those that have gone before us, know that this time when the veil is the thinnest is a wonderful opportunity to meditate, to write a letter, to have a silent supper. And with this, the sisters leave open the pathway to communicate between the living and the spirit worlds. Blessed be, and I wish you a peaceful and sacred Halloween and Dia de los Muertos. I hope these suggestions have been helpful and that you find connection with your beloveds this season. Remember to leave space for feelings, communication, and to close your altar, your communion, when you are done. Stay safe. We love you. Our circle is closed.